Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages. I am Sean Anderson, Most Valuable Podcast, and the upcoming segment is from our full Fast Break podcast that we recorded. And if you do want to check out that full podcast, head over to Blog Talk Radio/The Fast Break. You'll be able to find the full podcast over there. But let's move on now to Overrated Prospects. We talked about this last year. The guy who led the charge, the guy who was the thumbnail of our video was Jaylen Brown, and I will say whoops on that one.
Oopsie.
He looks good.
We'll see.
But
It's
also,
only 1 year.
I will say he looks good, but also...
It's only 1 year.
He's playing on
I think he's playing on a great team.
Stacked team.
Yeah, so I don't know if it's about a stacked team, but he's playing on a good team. But Jaylen Brown looks good. Whoops. But I think we're gonna redeem ourselves, right? We're gonna redeem ourselves. Dave, who is your most overrated prospect in the 2017 NBA draft?
That's going to be Lonzo Ball. I just think that, for someone who is a fantastic passer, no undeserving credit there, but he can't create his own shot. And that's a major concern in the NBA. I get being a pass first point guard, that's fine. And, he gets the whole team involved. And yeah, he has the X factor. He brings leadership and whatnot. But if you can't create your own shot in the NBA, there is a cap for how good you can be.
So where should he be going? Because you're saying he's completely overrated.
I think overrated for 2. Yeah.
So
I think there are better people. I think.
What players would you pick over Lonzo Ball?
I would do Josh Jackson over him. I would maybe do Tatum over him. And I might even be talked into someone else. But
okay, so he's
so from 2 to 5.
So he's overrated by one prospect?
2 to 5, maybe.
So he's overrated by one prospect.
He's only talked about because of his dad. And that's,
is he?
I don't think so. I think that he
His
was
dad
talked
is-
about well before.
because
his
we were
dad
talking
do you
came
hear
out.
about
before
Markelle
that.
Fultz at all? No, you don't. Because
but he
guess
also
what? His
was-
dad doesn't talk for him.
He also wasn't on a national program like
Yeah.
UCLA and led his team
And his
to a
team
top
sucked.
number 1 ranking.
I'm not saying that. I get that his team sucked, but he was still the best prospect in the nation, and he was likely the number 1 overall
Debatable.
draft. And you've heard 1/10 of the amount about Markelle Fultz as you have about Lonzo Ball.
But also, you were hearing about Lonzo Ball before LeVar Ball started running his mouth back in January.
No, exactly.
He's been running his mouth before January.
He started being picked up back in January
Yeah.
and kind
I'm
of
just
hitting a full
saying.
head of steam.
The kid gets so much more press than he deserves.
Well, it's one of those things where, first off, I'm going to say I feel like this is Dave just being angry at LeVar Ball.
We
not
lost a lot of
actually
people early.
being
Yeah, it's okay.
Overrated prospect. But the thing with that is, the thing that LeVar Ball does well, and I know it might be whoa, what does he do well, is he's creating a brand. He's creating whatever that big baller brand or whatever it is.
That's his brand.
The BBB.
Yep.
That started in January because that's around the time where, okay, we got to start getting this going so that come draft time, the brand is already built. It's already talked about. I get the marketing way of why he's doing it, but the face that I gave when you were like Lonzo Ball overrated, it's one of those. It would be like me saying
They're saying
Markelle
he's Jason Kidd.
It's one of those things like if I said Markelle Fultz is overrated, it's asinine.
But do you also not? I see some comparison. I don't think that's a crazy comparison. His ability to grab boards, his ability to
they're
create
similar.
like that.
Josh Jackson is the only one. If you said I'd take Josh Jackson over Lonzo Ball, I would say okay. If you said anyone else, I'd be like, you're fucking crazy.
I would agree with that, but I also think you need to know needs. I think you need to know needs. I think if you're saying, I need a point guard and I'm picking Josh Jackson over, it's like, all right, well, how...
Well, you're an idiot, yeah.
You need to take...
Fair
Well,
point.
that or you really value Josh Jackson. I think that's the thing.
Right.
I mean, I don't think Lonzo Ball is overrated at all. I think pretty
it's
much...
the overwhelming media coverage that really kills me on him. He's
But
got
is
more
he
media
an
coverage than
overrated
anyone.
prospect? Does that mean he's not going to... Do you just
I
not
think
like him?
I don't know. I honestly don't think he will. I think he's going to be a good NBA player. He might be a 2-time All-Star, but he's not going to be
bust, though?
He's not going to be a 10. We're talking overrated. I don't think he's going to be a 10-time All-Star. I don't think he's All NBA every
But who's
year.
saying he's going to be that?
I think there's a lot of projections out there who say he is.
I don't know about that.
You're calling him Jason Kidd.
But also, you look at Jason... No, people are saying that he can
Has
be
the
like
skill
Jason
set
Kidd.
of
I
Jason
understand.
Kidd.
People are not saying he is going to have Jason Kidd's exact same
I
career.
know.
He's also not the same height as Jason Kidd.
I know.
So, it's different. Overrated, I don't know about that because when I look at overrated, I have to look at someone who is getting the wrong attention and people are saying that he's going to be a stud because of X things, but aren't taking in a different part of his game, and that's the reason why he's going to fall. A guy like that is Justin Jackson, not Josh Jackson. Jesus Christ, we almost got more people clicking off. Justin Jackson, a guy that's being put in the lottery right now, a guy who's a junior and really is only blown up because of him being able to improve his 3-point shot. But then
And
again,
attorney time.
you got to look at the team that he was on. You look at the team that he was on in North Carolina. That was the best team in college basketball. They won the national championship. He was able to, yes, be a leader and be able to improve his 3-point percentage to an unreal amount. I think it improved it 8% from 29% to 7% or whatever it was.
Just about, yep.
But you look at him as an actual player, yes, he improved his 3-point shot, but I look at him as a guy who might be a little soft. He's very slow, and he's not that good of an athlete for the NBA. I don't see him as a good defender because, again, he's slow, and I don't think he's going to be that quick going left to right defending NBA players, and he's not playing the most best athletes of athletes. You look at Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox, they were able to beat UNC early on, right? Or was that UCLA? I don't know, but if he's playing, high-level athletes, I don't think he's going to be able to, keep up with those players.
What kind of soft is he? Is he SOFT or
He's SOFT. I'm not bringing up WWE.
He's not soft?
No, I don't. But I just don't think he's a player that's going to be able to keep up in the NBA. I don't think he's a guy that's going to be able to.
My biggest thing with him is I know it's like you don't want to focus in on one game, but I'm going to focus in on the last two.
I'm going
to focus in on the last two. I mean, North Carolina, to me, doesn't win that national championship if Barry's not going off, if he's not going beast mode, and they're not even in that national championship game if Kennedy Meeks isn't grabbing on board. So that is kind of like what you're saying. It's not one of those things where I want to take anything away from Justin Jackson, but it's one of those things where, like you said, if that team isn't as stacked as it was, didn't have the same players that it did, they don't even get to where they were. They don't even win that game.
That's the thing. He's a projected 3-and-D player. He's not a guy.
He's not a team on the back.
He's not a guy that's worth a lottery pick. He's not a guy that's. He's a guy that's going to be.
In today's NBA, 3-and-D could be worth a lottery pick, though.
But he's like a 4th or 5th guy, and he's not a guy that's like. A 3-and-D guy is a guy that can shoot over 40% in college. Not a guy that just found his 3-point shot and shot 30.
No, it's nice to see improvement.
On the
to be
dot.
fair,
You saw improvement, but then again, if his top game is 37%, how much of an improvement is that? How much is that going to translate into the NBA from the NCAA? I don't think he's a lottery pick. I think that's where it's overrated. I think you look at that and he can be very useful in the 20 to 30 range. I think that's a good pick. But when you're saying he's a lottery pick over some of these players like Justin Patton, Jared Allen, that's bullshit.
Well,
that's an overrated prospect.
I put Justin Jackson for me personally as early second rounder.
Wow.
I mean, you could take him at the end of the first.
Rounder.
You could take him at the end of the first, but ideally I think that he'll fall a little bit and be that early second round. I'm not saying too far down, but maybe like 1-2 picks into that second round.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's going to a playoff team like Oklahoma City. I think Oklahoma City, that's an upgrade over Roberson because Roberson's a great defender. But then again, you can have a guy that can develop into a 3-and-D player if that is what you think he can become.
Right.
He's a better 3-point shooter than Roberson. You have that at least, and then at least you can have that mixture of a guy Roberson who can play fantastic
You're a
defense.
better 3-point shooter than Roberson.
And then you could take in a guy like Justin Jackson, and then if he does have that 3-point shot that stays, then there you go. But he's not a guy that the Bulls should be taking at 14 or 15 or wherever they're slotted at. It should not be a thing for the Pistons or Hornets or whoever he's mocked to. That's ridiculous. He's not an overrated. He is an overrated prospect. He's not a lottery pick.
Well, that's like one of the players that I was going to bring up was Lauri Markkanen. And the reason why is, to me, like as I started to see more and more of his game, I just started to say, yeah, okay, he can shoot. He can hit threes. Okay, like he's not a guy that's going to be a lockdown defender. Might not even be a solid defender.
Oh, so far
for you
he's
out
been
on
below
the court.
average. Yeah.
It's one of those things where we saw with Lauri Markkanen, and Arizona proved this to me in the tournament. Unless you use him perfectly right, he's useless out there on the court.
But then again, I think it's more.
Well, it's one of those things. You were watching those games with me when Arizona just stopped going to him.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, if he can't defend and you're not going to go to him for jumpers, he's useless out there.
Yeah, no, outside jumpers is his jam. The problem is like Arizona's trying to force square, peg into a round hole.
Yeah.
Trying to force him to play inside, get a little grittiness to his game. He doesn't have that. He is like Ryan Anderson. He is a big with a sweet shot and a great touch on it, but he's slow for his size. I know that sounds stupid saying something for slow, but he is, and he's not good. He's a defensive negative, so you have a lot of upside because not a lot of people have a 7-footer who can shoot like that. But at the same time, he's got to learn to defend better or hustle better.
But then again, I think that's a thing where I don't know. I think it's something where Sean Miller, he kind of took him out of his game, and then that kind of threw off his game completely.
I agree to some point.
I think that, yes, I see where overrated's coming from, but that's why I have hesitancy to say he's overrated, because I understand where you're coming from completely, because, yes, you haven't seen much from outside of that three-point shot, but then again, you look at that three-point percentage, he struggled to end the season and still shot 42% from three.
And that's where it comes into play, is I want to say he's overrated because of that. But in today's NBA, though, with the three-point shot, I think that's that's the main reason, I'll say, why he's as high as it is, because of how valued the three-point shot is in today's NBA. It's, if you're a team, you live and die by the three now. And it's one of those things where, yeah, you might not be able to defend, but hey, guess what? The Warriors, besides maybe look at Steph Curry in the finals. Wasn't the greatest defender, but still one of the greatest players in the NBA. Well, I'll say one of the greatest players in the NBA.
Oh, wait, what?
Steph Curry.
Oh, I was like,
yeah.
I was almost going to say,
that rabbit hole.
I was always going to say the best, but then I just said one of the best.
He's one of the best.
It's one of those things where, I'll get back to the point, marketing, the only reason he's as high as he is because of how well he shoots the three.
But then again, I think you also see that ability, and he's not he's slow, but he's not a bad athlete for a 7-footer. Like, you can still see some sparks where he can attack the basket, he can be quick to the basket. I think that with his size, being 7 foot tall, I think the toughness worries me a little bit, because he's not a guy that can grab a ton of boards. You see a little bit where he gets over 10 boards, but for a 7-footer, he should be getting 10 boards consistently.
It's like Brook Lopez, though. I mean,
yeah, but then again, he's also not close to the basket. It's tough, and it's hard to see where he really fits, and that's why I have a tough time saying he's overrated. But I also see why people say he's overrated, because then again, you see the 42.3% three-point shooting, and you're like, holy shit, like, that's unreal.
Yeah, the value of a three-point shot versus the negative of defense, it's a hard balance to make. And in the NBA, you see guys who are brought in as offensive specialists, and they just do their thing, and what is kind of thing.
But also, how bad will he always
really
consistently be bad on defense?
And that, you hope you can teach somebody with that kind of size and length to him. I mean, the one thing you can't do is the speed.
And you can hide him a little bit.
You got to try to.
but that's the thing. You can end up hiding him a little bit if he does enough when he is put into pressure situations. I think you could be decent. I think if he turns into a guy at least like what Kevin Love is on the Cavs now, where I know Kevin Love is more tenacious,
glorified spot up shooter at this point in his role.
Yeah, and
I see what you're saying.
If he can be a guy that when he's called on to be a defender, he can be a decent defender. When he needs to be a rebounder, he can grab some boards and he can hit the outside shot. I think that's going to be something that's very valuable in today's NBA, especially with his size too. I think he can be a decent pick and roll guy. But then again, it's tough to say that. Like, I just have a tough time saying he's overrated.
I want to throw out one more, and I'm right now on the NBA Draft.net forums. And this was posted earlier today, the 15th. Someone posted BDD5115. One of the players, he said Malik Monk. And he goes, and I quote, "I'm a fan of his. I just don't see him being that much more than an elite microwave guy / 6th man of the year candidate." And that's fine, but I don't think that's the type of player is worth a top 8 pick in a class as stacked as this one.
I don't know. I go back and forth.
I saw that
on
and I was
Monk.
like, it's interesting.
Yeah, I go back and forth on him because, again,
Talked
it's
about
like
how inconsistent he is.
But then again, if he finds that consistency, then it's like,
Dude is
holy
on
crap,
fire.
the guy can put up 24 points a night.
That's
like,
where you get the elite
easily.
microwave kind of.
Yeah.
like that's the thing is it's a tough thing to say if at worst he's a good 6 man. It's like, all right, well, I'll take a chance on that because at best he might be the scoring leader. Like he's a guy that it's like
at the end of the rookie year, I mean, it's probably going to be like Fultz and him for 1, 2 and scoring as rookies. I mean, there's a good chance of that.
Yeah, it's
depending on where they land, but yeah.
I see the concerns with Malik Monk, and I see the concerns with like a lot of these guys. But when you have a draft class this loaded, you need to find some flaws. I mean, when you look at Markelle Fultz, it's like, well, how much is he a winner? Is he a leader? Going number one, is he worth being a leader at number one?
Intangibles, yeah.
Yeah, because you know what he can do on the court. Lonzo Ball, obviously, you mentioned the shot.
The shot and the defense give you concern because he doesn't have that quickness.
The defense doesn't worry me too much.
The shot
De'Aaron
doesn't
Fox
worry
exposed
me.
it, man.
Well, De'Aaron Fox is a different monster. But then again,
At the NBA level, you have better athletes.
But then again, De'Aaron Fox can't shoot.
And it depends on what team he gets drafted to. I'm going to bring up Steph Curry again. Nowhere near an elite defender, but we don't pick out his defense unless there's a microscope on it in the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
Day to day in the regular season, we're not scoping in on Steph's defense.
Yeah, because you have people to cover like Clay, who takes your best, and I think that's what the NBA is kind of like.
How you mentioned.
You also have a Draymond. I mean, those guys can cover five players on their own.
Absolutely, and that's kind of the interesting thing is like the NBA has kind of gone away from like say you're a two-way player. That's like a bonus. That's like a rare thing
Jimmy.
in the NBA these days. You don't see that for everybody. So I think we're getting to that point where you can kind of hide players' deficiencies by balancing out your roster. So. Yeah,
and another thing that you say, the shot, that doesn't bother me either, because a guy that we had just talked about, I want to say it was last week in Buddy Hield, he was shooting with the wrong hand, changed it. So like
but
something
then again,
like
he's
that,
not going to be in college. He's going to be in the NBA.
Yeah,
you need results
you
more
can
than
still
3 years.
change it in the NBA. It's not like, you came to the NBA with that shot. That's the one
it's not it's not his form. It's his actual shooting percentage. Like he doesn't take mid-range shots. He's not elite at the hole.
I'm saying Lonzo.
He's got the 3-ball, which
got
fine.
funky shooting.
Yeah, Lonzo's got a weird shot. Yeah, but what his more is he's too slow to create his own shot.
Right.
He's a guy that you've seen him step back in college. I mean, you see him step back in college and hit from deep. But then again, with longer, more athletic players, can he do that?
Right.
And that's the question with Lonzo.
My question actually is his teammate and TJ Leaf. Do you think he's overrated? Kind of getting that perk of being on a team.
I don't
with
think we
Lonzo
hear
Ball?
enough of TJ Leaf.
I think it's something where you're not drafting him to be a number 1 or number 2. You're drafting him to be a complementary piece, but you can see him in a role as a complementary piece, and he's damn good at it.
Yeah,
like he's a guy that. I don't think he's going to be an NBA All-Star, but I think he's a guy that's going to be an NBA starter for his whole career.
You know what?
He's good at it.
You know what his ceiling is to me? A guy like Clay. A guy that was drafted.
Whoa.
Wait,
What?
Just listen.
You're throwing out a big comparison there.
Just listen.
The toaster. Shit.
Just listen. It's a guy that, and I'm saying that's the absolute ceiling. Like, it's one of those things where
one of the greatest
he's
scorers.
drafted, you kind of overlook him because, he's TJ Leaf. But then it's like, wow, this guy's really good, and he develops into that. That's like the top of his potential to me.
To be
absolute
a great
top.
shooting guard for a guy who's 6'11"?
No, I'm saying on the side of, not an exact comparison. I'm saying what you said. You draft him, and it's like they drafted Clay. No one thought Clay was going to be number 2 of the Splash Brothers, solid shooting guard for the Warriors for X amount of years.
But Clay wasn't a complimentary piece at Washington State. He was the piece.
No, that's what I'm saying. He can develop into a piece. That's his ceiling of it. It's not just going to be, TJ Leaf is on the bench.
I don't know, but Clay could be his own star. I think if he wasn't on the Warriors, I think
I'm saying what he is on the Warriors, though, that is Leaf's ceiling.
I don't know about that. I think because Clay's a star in his own right, I don't think TJ Leaf's going to be a star. I think if he goes to a team like the Pistons, he's going to be a good three piece, behind Reggie Jackson if they keep him and Andre Drummond. I don't know about the Clay comparison, but I agree that
again, absolute ceiling doesn't mean he's going to get there.
But I don't think that's the ceiling.
Yeah.
I think that's just the wrong ceiling. I think you're building the wrong
roof?
house.
Is it the roof or the ceiling?
I don't know, but
because the ceiling is.
I
the
agree
roof.
that we don't hear enough about TJ Leaf, but I also don't agree with that. I think the most overrated prospect in my mind. I think Justin Jackson can still be a decent NBA pro. I think the most overrated is Justin Patton. Still, we talked about him last week.
Yeah,
the guy can't rebound. The guy's 7 feet tall. He can't rebound, and I don't think that his offensive abilities are going to be enough. I think that maybe at best he can be like a Zach Randolph, but Zach Randolph's still a good rebounder.
Let's be honest. The only reason that we're hearing his name where it is because Williams went back to Texas A&M. If Williams came out, we're putting his name. It's Allen and then Williams.
Justin Patton was a top 20 pick even with Williams in there.
No, I'm saying because we talked about centers last week too. If
Robert Williams were a power forward.
Same thing, big man. If he's in there, I'm looking at Allen and then I'm looking at Williams before I even look at Patton.
I don't even know.
Before I even touch him.
But no, I think that we had the discussion Patton or Allen last week, and I think people still would pick Patton, but I think
I'd go with Allen.
I would go with Allen just because again he's a good athlete. I just look at Patton though, and I look at that defense, and I look at his lack of ability to rebound. As a guy who's 7 feet tall, that worries me. That's kind of with the marketing thing where you look at Patton, and yes, he's a good offensive player, but he's not to the levels of marketing where you see that role in the NBA. You don't see Patton's role exactly in the NBA. He's not a guy that can light it up from three. He's a guy that can take shots from the outside, but you don't see a post-up player who dominates offensively.
Yeah, Cantor's the only big who has a completely lopsided game like that. He is a offensive weapon and defensively negative, and they've got a perfect match for him in Adams.
Yeah, and Cantor's not a star.
No,
he's a
no,
good
he's not.
starter, but he's not a star.
He's a backup player.
Yeah, I mean that's the he could
6-man.
He could be a starter.
He could be. Yeah.
If you want to switch Adams, depending on the team. But I think that's the top for Patton. But then also you look at Cancer. That guy can rebound. That guy's tough.
Yeah.
That guy punches chairs. I don't see Justin Patton punching a chair.
And then gets injured.
Yeah.
But it's about the tenacity. It's about the
Yeah, he
intent.
punched it so hard he broke his wrist.
It was a joke.
You know, for me, the only one that I keep coming back to, like as I go down
Lonzo
the
Ball?
board. No,
Dave
I
wants to
don't-
talk about the balls
I'm not gonna
more.
disagree with that one. Is Harry Giles? Like, I don't. It's just we haven't seen him play. Like we legitimately haven't seen a stretch of him playing.
But
It's,
also
it's drafting blindly. I'm tossing in a bullet for a first round pick of someone who has a injury history who could play basketball.
I think he's going to end up like Scal, going late first rounder.
That'd be great.
Because I know right now Chad Ford has him on his big board at 13, and I had him pretty high.
Insane to me.
I had him pretty high as well, which is kind of like the Thon Maker idea of like, well, we know what he can do, so maybe we just take a chance on him. That was the reason why I had him so high on my mock draft.
played basketball,
but then again, like, we haven't seen him play basketball. So I think that's a
You're talking we haven't
big
seen
thing.
Harry Giles play basketball?
Not much.
We haven't.
Well, we've seen him
It's a-
play on
it's
the
a
court.
short
Okay, we
stretch.
haven't seen him healthy. He still hasn't been healthy.
But we've still seen him play basketball.
You saw, okay, but like in the literal sense, like he's done nothing. You saw
we
a little
haven't
bit of a
seen his
splash.
peak. We haven't seen anything close to.
You saw a little bit
I
in
think-
the ACC tournament, but you haven't
Yeah.
seen a lot.
I think with him, it's the same. You can say the same thing, a little bit different because he played a little bit more minutes than Giles did, but it's the same thing with OG Anunoby, where it's like, am I going to draft him knowing he's coming off of
OG
his
was
injury?
carrying Indiana.
Yeah,
though.
but we've seen him for 2 years. The thing about with Giles is we haven't even seen him against that competition.
Yeah.
With Anunoby, if he comes out in the combine, then people those can go away quickly. With Giles, it's like, all right, can you
But it's the same
consistently stay
thing.
healthy?
No.
It's a knee injury, is what I'm saying.
the
But
thing is
Giles
one
had
of
those
2 of them.
things-
Yeah, Giles has two.
Giles
and
had
OG
2.
carried Indiana. When he was there, they were great, and then all of a sudden, you were
also
talking
don't know
about
what Anunoby's injury is.
I'm not trying to say that it's like, oh well, Anunoby's a bust. I was just throwing it
No,
out
I
there with
understand
the
the
injury
injuries, just-
because look
Yeah.
at a guy that we used to praise here. Well, we, not Sean, used to praise here in Chicago, and Derrick Rose, one knee injury, and that's all you know. That's all you know.
But then again, I think that's why I think with Anunoby you have to wait till the combine.
Well, yeah.
Medically
where,
clear, yeah.
Where you look at Giles, he tore both of his ACLs in high school, and then you look at what he was doing in college. It took him all the way until early December to play, and then he first saw his first game of
Unlimited
24
minutes, too,
minutes.
yeah.
And he put up 12 points, but also was just like dump inside to Harry, dump inside to Harry, dump inside to Harry.
Right.
We haven't seen him be super mobile. We haven't seen him be super agile. We haven't seen him be
That's
the
why I
guy
feel like
that
a
he came
first
into
round
college
is
with.
hard to put like lottery. Are you kidding me? That scares the crap out of me.
I think that's overrated just because we don't know where
Yeah,
he will go.
Yeah. I mean, for a player you haven't seen compete at the top level and play healthy for extended periods of time, to pick him with a top 20 pick,
It's dangerous.
absolutely is.
Yeah.
I want to throw one last name out there, and this
Do
is
it,
just
Ricky.
one that I've been seeing online with other people saying. Is Luke Kennard kind of overrated?
I don't know. I don't.
Because right now, I mean, I look at Tankathon, he's at 20 to the Hawks, but are we overrating Luke Kennard and what he brings to teams?
I mean, it's really what are you looking for him to bring in? I mean, you're not going to get elite defending from him. You're not going to get a guy who's going to be able to be. He could be a good 6-man. I think at best he develops into a former Blue Devil and JJ Redick of a guy who could be a spot up shooter for you. I think that his value is not going to be a starter. He's not going to be a star. He's going to be a guy that can be a great player. At least in a specialized role like a JJ Redick, Kyle Korver, where he might have more athleticism than those guys. But
JJ
then again,
Redick's a starter, though.
yeah, but he's in a specialized role.
Okay.
If they didn't find his specialized role, I mean, it took him a while to get his feet set in the NBA.
Plus, he
and that's a
played
guy,
for the Magic. We all know their history.
yeah, and then he played for the Bucks, and then he was all around everywhere. I mean, he needed a specialized role with a guy like Chris Paul who could get on the ball. I think that Luke Kennard can be a guy that has a long career in the NBA, but I don't know if he's going to be an all-star at any point. I think that Kennard, it really depends on will he fit my team right now as a playoff team. That's why I put him at Oklahoma City, because three-point shooting,
Yeah,
Russ
he
is going to
jumped
be able to create.
10% in that 1 year from freshman to sophomore year. So you gotta love that, having a knockdown shooter. I think always will have value. I think that regardless of where you're going, it's just, hey, can you shoot the 3-ball? Great, you have value in today's
And that's not
NBA.
even like a Justin Jackson
that's-
percentage. That's just
yeah.
because he saw more minutes.
Well, yeah, he went from 26 to 35 minutes, but his shot attempts went up just slightly. It was from 4.8 a game to 5.4 shots from 3. So, I mean, it's just It's someone who I'm happy he stayed back because he was kind of overshadowed that first year. So him coming back, being a veteran leader as a sophomore, kind of sounds stupid, but he was. And I think that, like, I don't know if he's overrated. I think that value-wise, he's probably, a 20.
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I think
fine.
he's safer than Justin Jackson because I think he's at least quicker. And I don't know if he's going to be able to guard NBA shooting guards. But I don't know if he's going to be a defensive liability. And I'm calling Justin Jackson a defensive liability a lot because I still think that you saw some chase down blocks from him. You saw
he has
length. He has length. But then again, I see him as a really slow player. But that's it. But then again, we also talked about Miles Bridges possibly being slow. But then again, he was very smooth, and Justin Jackson's kind of smooth. So. But I don't know. I think Justin Jackson, in my mind, is the most overrated prospect in the NBA draft. Who's your most overrated prospect? Is it Lonzo Ball, Dave?
I still want to say Lonzo Ball, but I think Justin Jackson might be because of how hard things went off with the tournament. And, like, he went from, second round, like Ricky said, to a lottery pick.
Anyone's going to look good playing Boston College.
I'm going to say Markkanen right now. I kind of want to lean towards him only because of me. I see a guy who is a big who can't play down low, can shoot the three, can't defend well. So I would say he's probably my most overrated right now. Nothing too much like Jaylen Brown last year.
Well, what I was going to mention is Jaylen Brown was in that 7-8 range. So, I mean, if Markkanen's also in that 7-8 range, I mean, he might come back and bite you in the ass, Ricky. Just saying. Tell us who you think is the most overrated prospect in the NBA draft in the comments down below. Also, that's going to wrap up this podcast. So we talked about the Knicks, we talked about Miles Bridges, we talked about overrated prospects. Tell us all of your thoughts in the comments down below. Also, don't forget to like this video. Subscribe to Most Valuable Podcast. Check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. All of our Twitter handles are in the description down below. Dave's at Dave Don't Tweet, and that's all I'm going to mention. And also, if you're listening on Block Talk Radio, thank you again for the download. And if you're watching on YouTube, thank you so much. But for Dave Oster, Ricky Widmer, I'm Sean Anderson. We'll see you next time. Thank you. Oh, shit. Oh, it's just one of our videos scared me a little bit. Don't forget to check out that one. And also don't forget to check out patreon.com/Most Valuable Podcast. But thank you so much for watching. We'll see you next time.